Good. Well, afternoon, fellas. Thanks for making the time and the effort to come here. We're joined with Doug Allison, head coach of Furman University. Graham Seagraves, who's actually a father and an ex-player of Furman, an entrepreneur and businessman here at Charlotte Soccer Academy. And I don't think there's any mistake in our guest to the right here, Clint Dempsey. Thank you very much. Ex-Paladin, or Paladins, I believe that is a warrior, is it not? An ancient warrior. You want to kick us off with anything you know about that?
I had a client email me today and said they spent 10 minutes researching it. Now that they saw Furman football advanced in the playoffs, they're like, we had no idea what that was. It's a knight on a horse.
Is that what it is?
I don't actually.
Black knight on a white horse, right?
Yeah, I was told to say that, but I don't know what it is either.
It is a knight on a horse.
Yeah.
I didn't know that for about the first 4 or 5 years I was here. I was like, oh, thanks for telling me. I think he told me. So,
well, you know, we have the Bulldogs, the Tigers, the Bruins and everything, and a Paladin. I did kind of Google it, and Google's a great friend of ours, obviously, and I think it's a medieval warrior. So, were these two guys warriors for you?
Absolutely. Graham was one of our first guys, actually. My first recruiting class, Steve. And he was one of those guys. He was our captain, I think junior and senior year, but as basically being our captain the whole time, particularly in graduation as well. And I think coming down to alumni games and stuff, he always gets on a few guys, and he's still a captain when he tells them to come to the alumni game. And it's like, well, that's not an excuse, you better be there. And so he still does that. They all follow him still. No question. And Clint obviously was a fantastic player for us, and personality as well, and a warrior. And sometimes a lot of difficult situations, and not just games, but just fun times. But two amazing alumni of ours who are just become friends.
I couldn't agree more. And obviously, being as long as I've been in youth soccer, we've known each other for many, many moons, coming from the same part of England, and joking over the Strongbow cider and such. We've had players from our clubs that have represented Furman over the years, and obviously it's a great institution. And I think you've been there 29 seasons now. Yeah. That's quite an achievement. We're hoping you can get to 30 at least, or maybe beat Mark's record down in South Carolina, which was 43. And I know you played for Mark. You've done 4 years as an assistant there.
That's right.
Prior to coming to into Furman. How was it when you got to Furman, and how did the 4 years with Mark and being the leading goal scorer, Hall of Fame in South Carolina? Is that number 9, I believe? Inside the box. How was it transitioning from that assistant to head, and how did you get Furman off the ground and running to become and recruit these guys and so many other great players that have come through the program?
A lot of questions there, Steve. Yeah. I got to remember when I write these things down. But this is my first head coaching job. It still is. And so I will say that Mark Burson really was a father figure to me, and someone I'll always treasure, and didn't only enable me to come over to America to get a scholarship, but he also introduced me to his wife, and my wife's mum were best friends in school, so I didn't just get a scholarship and then helped me get a job, but introduced me to Jody too. But I think he prepared me in so many ways, but you can never know exactly what you're doing until you're in that position. And getting that head coaching job, I was 28, I think it was.
Yeah,
I wasn't much older than some Graham and some of the crazy guys that I recruited that year. But it was one that you've got to learn on the job, because it's your name now, and all of a sudden you've got to learn camps. You've got to learn that what you say to people that you thought maybe were friends of yours, and talking about different stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute, they could use that against me now. So we talked about that a little bit. You got to be really careful what you tell people.
I think in today's society as well, you have to be diligent of what you say, where you do, where your photos taken, anything like that. The world's got very, one word could be judgmental, but the kind of things that people were maybe allowed to make a few mistakes here and there.
Absolutely.
Sometimes,
it was before social media. I mean, really, it's like in the dark ages we talk about that, but there was no cell phones, no social media, nothing like that. So really, we didn't know who our opponents were, except for we kind of remembered them from last year, and who may have graduated, who they joined in. But we just played who we played on the day. There wasn't all this preparation for everyone. We just looked at ourselves and just said, let's just do this for ourselves,
Yeah, over the seasons, and obviously you guys coming in, we try and get our guys now to write to college coaches, to email college coaches, send video clips, and everybody wants to send, their best bits. But there's nothing really like live, watching players live.
Yeah.
You guys growing up, just how was it? Are you writing to college coaches back in the day? Are you at the ODP camps playing? I believe, you played the Dallas Texans as well with Hassan, who's a good friend of mine, who has done fantastic in Texas being such a hotbed for soccer, tournaments, those kind of things. Was college in your mind growing up like it is with players now?
Maybe I'll go first. I mean, I guess it was, but there was no sort of there wasn't really anyone in my town that came before me that paved that path that made it easy for that vision to be available. I mean, certainly in the state of Georgia, but Stone Mountain was sort of a small town when I was a kid growing up. Now, Josh Wolf and Clint Mathis and a lot of guys that I played with in that state, Jason Moore, who was a national team kid on my club team, and there were a lot of talented guys, but you grew into that probably in that 15, when you're around 15 or so, you started saying, wow, there's a lot of talent. This is a hotbed for soccer that's going a lot of places. So I think as a kid, I just kind of loved the sport. It was just something to do. It was fun. College wasn't a guarantee even in my family. I mean, we came from kind of a humble background where, I thought I wanted to go to college. I hoped I could get there, but I was going to need some form of scholarship and academic support and everything else to not end my college career with a debt load that would be somewhat unmanageable. But I think early days it was just the love of the game, the love of the sport, the love of my teammates, that time together, doing something that made my parents proud. It's those types of things. But then, it got to a point with ODP and region team and tournaments that we were winning. I was very fortunate that Steamers team sort of existed in that era that was in my age group. I was very fortunate to be around a lot of guys that came together at the right time in Georgia and accomplished the ability to get seen by coaches. So I have a lot of gratitude
and Mike Rubish
towards
was
that.
involved in that.
Ruby down at Emory.
Quite a legend from Emory, a little South
But it's
African
also
guy.
very funny because I still remember recruiting Graham in Columbia, South Carolina on the ODP field. So I remember that day. I was with Bully, and he stayed in the car, and I'm like, I've got to get out. Even though it's raining, I'm getting out. And I'm on the field with you guys, and it was one of those
knocking around.
It was very late because it was Washington and Lee and different other schools, very academic-minded schools. It was going to. I'm like, wait a minute, we need a big defender here, And your friend went to South Carolina.
Yeah, so Campania and I were sort of competing, and for that role at South Carolina, we were both talking to Trevor at Clemson. It was going to be a trick for me a little bit because I did want something a bit more academic, but then. Yeah, when Doug and I met, it was fortuitous timing, as is most things in life, and it was perfect.
Good. Clint, offers on the table, or was it always Furman? How did that go from Texas? Texas not having too many Division I programs, really, at the time.
I mean, the thing was, this big school that everybody wanted to go to was SMU. When I started playing club soccer, it was kind of like our college fund, the money that we were putting towards club soccer. We were hoping that one day to be able to get a full ride, full scholarship was the hope. So my older brother found out about it, that you could go to Dallas Houston to play at the club level. It was a big sacrifice for my family, but at the same time, could put ourselves in debt to try to make it happen. And I met Doug doing ODP. Even though it was expensive, you try to scrounge around money that you could from asking people in your town to to have the opportunity to go to those camps and to play against some of the best kids in the region, which was Region 3 for me, which is basically Texas to Florida all the way up to North Carolina with Oklahoma in there as well, and Arkansas. So it was just wanted to play at the highest level that I possibly could, and the reason why I liked Furman was the players that they recruited. They were recruiting like Alex Maslow, who was on the regional team. There was Ricardo Clark, who was on the national team, but also I knew him from the regional team. So it was just a number of guys that I knew and I respected, so I liked the players that they were going after. So that was a big thing for me, why I kind of gravitated towards that school, but also the relationship I had with Doug. talking about stupid stuff like the fishing, the singing bass that would be on the wall and stuff like that. But
it was back home in England, the Billy Bass was on the wall. I said, Mom, I'm going to record this for Clint. Mum, I've been from Scotland. She goes, what is this silly thing you've got on the wall here? You know, and I'm like, forget. But I do remember this, Clint. Recruiting you hadn't visited yet, and I said, well, we have a lake on campus, and you're going to be able to fish in it. And so when he came down, I took all the no fishing signs off there, off the lake. So I'm like, you can fish there anytime you want, Clint. It was nasty, but he's a fisherman. He always was.
Well, then my freshman year I got in trouble. I said, you can't fish here.
I had to put the signs back. It's
I sneak over to the golf course trying to fish and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was the quality of players that they were going after.
No, I mean, I think we can all see that the amount of guys I think you've had in the MLS draft, just looking at this, Doug, where we got here, you've got 30 All-American selections, 9 in the MLS draft pick, Furman Coach of the Year honors, Regional Coach of the Year, players on the US national team. We know a couple here, and arguably one of ours, I'm an Englishman, but one of the US's top strikers that has gone on, overall record 330, when I took this, maybe more now. I do apologise if the website may not be updated, but it's 330 wins, 163, I think 163 ties overall, so it's a great record. So they arrive on campus, freshmen. For freshmen coming in, daunting maybe, coming from out of state, coming into the small South Carolina, kind of a small school, used to Texas, Georgia, Atlanta, coming in, leaving home, leaving the things that you need, and you've got to go and play. No guarantee that you are going to play. Freshmen coming in, I have a son that's a freshman in college now. Takes some adjusting, right? Not really knowing what's going on. Tell us about that, and how were they as freshmen, and your experiences in your freshman year?
Well, I can't tell you everything.
Statute of limitations.
There's certain things, but it was a lot different than when I was coming in, but because I didn't really know where I was going. I'd never been to America before, so coming in for me, again, I had to thank Mark Burson for being a father figure to me, and Trevor Adair too. He being an Irishman too, he picked me up at the airport. I still remember it. God love him, he's passed away 3 years ago now, but he was very helpful to me too. So I had two coaches that I could really look up to and help me. I didn't even know where South Carolina was, really. I knew the map of Europe, but I thought I wrote letters, handwritten letters to 2 or 3 different places, and that was completely different than it is now too. But coming on, you get to know your teammates very well. And as Clint says, luckily you had some teammates, and you guys had teammates that you knew. Kenny Penn and some of those guys, and John Barry was already there. I think when you got there, he was a senior when you were a freshman, I believe. There were some guys that were going to look after these kids too. And we have a big brother system a little bit too, but it still is daunting no matter where you go, because your first time ever really away from home. And you got to study, and you got to...
Well, I think that's the tricky part, right? Because every player, I want to be a soccer player, and I'm going to college to play soccer. There is the academic side of it, which is very good. Furman's obviously a great academic institution, guys. How did you balance your time with studies and time for any incoming freshmen, any young boys or girls that are watching this, that kind of love the grass too much in the field and playing and the things that college can bring? What about actually then dedicating time, and how did that help you both in both your careers on the field and in the business world, Graham?
Okay, I'll give it a start here. I do think it's a challenging transition. The other thing we haven't talked about that you're given when you go to college is freedom. You're given a lot of freedom of choice. Much like when you're on the pitch and playing, that next decision you make is yours. It doesn't matter what you trained and what the coach is kind of given to you prior to the game. Those moments happen quick, and the same thing happens when you get to college. You've got to make some decisions, but it helps if you grow up with parents that give you. I'll brag on my parents. I know Clint feels the exact same way. Doug does too. But my parents gave me a lot of tools to not always make the perfect decision or a great decision, but to understand the difference between right and wrong. And you're going to make a bit of both. both on the pitch, but also in an environment where you've got a lot of freedom to choose between, do I go to that class today? Could I skip it once and maybe do something a little bit more fun? How do I handle this much studying I need to get done? We've got a road trip. We're not going to get home till 3 a.m. But I think you sort of sort it out yourselves. There's a bit of pride that comes with, I mean, if you make it that far and earn a scholarship, you walk into a door with a group of guys. And the other thing that happens in college is you're no longer playing in your age group. I mean, we all played up in youth sports at some point. You played up a year or two to challenge yourself. But you get in there and in my freshman class, there was a 23-year-old Ukrainian kid, Peter Slobodan, who was a first-team freshman All-American that year. Incredible player who played the center back role. I mean, this guy could bench press 400 pounds as a 23-year-old freshman, but I've got to learn how to adapt to him. I mean, we became really close friends, and he taught me a lot as well. But you're meeting international players, you're meeting guys you grew up playing with, but also guys who are 4 or 5 years older than you. And if you want to compete for a starting role, you know, many of us, maybe at the high school level, but it's not high quality, but you haven't played against the best players internationally and throughout a region that are 4 or 5 years older than you. And you get into that first preseason practice, and you better come with your elbows sharp. I mean, everyone wants a role, and you do end up building this incredible chemistry. But it's out of respect for each other that chemistry really happens, versus you're not given it just because you played for the club team I played for, or the region team, or the national team. I mean, you kind of have to earn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clint, I know that you are, by all accounts, and I've seen you play, very, very competitive. And how does that fare?
It's tough, right? Because, I mean, you're going into a team that's a top 25 team. They're a reason why they're doing well. And you're trying to come in and take people's jobs. So you're confident in yourself, but there's a way you got to go about doing it, right? So you try to go in there, keep your head down. But when you have the opportunity to be on the pitch, you want to go shoulder to shoulder with everybody and show that you're hungry and want to fight for as much time that you can get on the pitch, because you don't know how much time that will be. And you talk about being in a new place, having that freedom, and adjusting to a higher level of academics. For me personally, I mean, I went from Nacogdoches High School, which in my opinion was tough to me, but it was not on the level of what I was getting into with Furman University and their academic program. But I think the key for me is in that first season is maybe trying to lighten the load a little bit in terms of the classes that you're taking, and kind of feel your way into it, because it is a big adjustment of the commitment that is required to be at the highest level and the energy that you have to put forth to be on that pitch week in and week out. It's a grind, but it's something that I look forward to, and it starts, I mean, as soon as you said that you're going to commit to that school, I mean, it's making sure that you're fit come preseason. We talked about those double days and the Cooper test and all the stuff that you had to do to show that, you've been doing stuff in the off season, and you weren't, coming in there.
They'll find you out if you don't.
They'll find you out.
And
there's no place to hide.
And you knew the quality players that you were against, and it's why I went to that school. I wanted that challenge. I wanted to test myself against some of the best, and Doug with Furman gave me that opportunity.
Yeah. So academic advisors, very, very important in this for freshmen coming in, understand the workload, the hours, that
and
kind of thing.
Their study hall, and I would tell any of the young kids that are looking to go to college, same thing, use your resources. There's plenty of resources there, although a lot of kids think that they're just coming in to play football. And for the first couple of weeks, that's all it was, because it's preseason before school started. But as soon as school starts, it's another bomb that hits you. And it's that the time management is such an important thing to develop very quickly in college. You have to be able to be, and as Graham has alluded to, you've got free time. Do I go to class? Because your roommate's not going to wake you up and go to class.
No.
But mom and dad, they're not there, and I'm not going to be the one snitching on them or anything like that, but I mean, someone had to look after me coming in, and my job as a recruiter was to say, when I bring kids into this environment, I want to look after them. But they've got to grow up, and they've got to develop their own sense of maturity. And between 18 and 22, 23, depending on what age these kids are leaving and graduating, this is a development time. And they do learn. I mean, they're learning all about time management, about academic situations, about internships, about all right, I don't have enough money here, and some of them don't have cars. Do I work on campus? Do I get a job off campus? How do I manage that? and then, wait a minute, I've got to study here and I've got a game tomorrow, I have curfew, there's a lot of things going on, and for a young kid sometimes it's pretty daunting.
Yeah.
But there are great resources at every school, so I'd take advantage of those resources. For a young kid coming into college, take advantage of those resources. There's so many that they have now. Study halls is such an important thing, but also ask the older kids that have done it before, that have maybe taken a certain professor or like a class, because a lot of these guys come in with a preconceived notion of a certain major they want to study to, and after a couple of years, particularly at liberal arts school, they don't have to decide their major until their junior year. So they can meet a professor they like, have advice from an older guy to say, hey, take this professor, try this in the summer, try this. And then all of a sudden they could change their mind. And that, I'd say 80 to 90% of them change their minds.
Yeah. Well, this is, what we're trying to do here with this podcast and getting up and running is the title, verbally committed. So that comes in many, many different forms. Doug's just spoke about you don't have to get up. You guys have said that. And we come to teamwork. What does commitment mean? And if you see a teammate that maybe is, I'm going to, maybe skip this today. How do you then, as leaders, and do players then come together and say, come on, we need to do this together? Because if you're going to be with us on the field, that's a part of commitment. So learning commitment to do the best for yourself and to make these sacrifices to go to class. And does that happen within the team?
It does. A lot gets managed in that locker room. I mean, the right locker rooms have leadership and chemistry in there where you're committed to each other. I'm interested in Clint's perspective. I think it gets a little harder once you're, at Fulham. I mean, it's those are my minutes. I need a contract. I'm fighting for these minutes. I mean, it gets a little bit more,
then, isn't it?
It's a little more fractured, I think, as you move beyond. And Clint could comment on that. But I think at the college level, you certainly have individuals who want to go on and play beyond that professionally. And have bigger dreams, but you dream about a national championship. You dream together about how you're going to accomplish that, and it means that in preseason, when you've got one or two guys who can't make those final runs, someone's throwing their arm around your neck and you're carrying them. It means that if someone's fallen down a little bit academically, I was spending extra time tutoring a great guy I won't mention by name, but a guy that we all know. Tutoring him when I was already done with soccer my senior year in that winter kind of season, helping him try and get through his grades because he was a national team kid at Furman that just needed to be held a little bit more accountable. And then I think ultimately, ultimately it's, on and off the pitch. I mean, I think if your teammates, if everyone's not at the same level, you have division in the locker room. I don't mean playing level, but if everyone's not on the same page with the objective, then you have the potential for people to be frustrated and upset and point the fingers. And when you get a common goal together that everyone's invested in, then it is about holding each other accountable. But that starts with yourself. You got to hold yourself accountable first and foremost, lead by example, and then you have the right to hold others accountable. You're not pointing the finger, but you say, hey man, we had curfew last night, you missed it. Yeah. And this happened at a practice.
So how hard is that in a college environment?
Particularly because you don't want the coach to know, but you want to be a leader too.
But you also have, players come from youth clubs where there's 18 players on a squad. You always get some playing time, you get in. Here at college, it's just like the professional ranks. You have to. You sometimes players can get in on the fact that someone else is injured, and you have to be ready, next man up, take that spot, perform. And there can be some highs and lows with that with players. Did you, as freshmen coming in, find that was quite hard to adjust to, or sometimes freshmen come in and you hit the ground running, but there's always someone who's kind of on the fringe that are good enough in the squad, maybe not in yet, and how do you help them get through that?
I'll go one more time, and then I want to hear Clint's opinion on this too. But I think my freshman and sophomore year, we struggled. It was early for Doug, and he had a legacy group of players that were recruited by John Tart. Who's who was a really successful soccer coach, went on to UNCC. But we mixed this sort of new group of players with a group of players that weren't left behind, but may have felt some of that tension, right? And so we didn't quite have the right chemistry my freshman and sophomore year, even though we had a lot of talent, but we built kind of that trust and chemistry within the locker room that really started overflowing the cup by my junior and senior year, and it changed the game for us. And my senior year, we had an incredible amount of success, which, helped to lead Doug to the ability to recruit incredible players at kind of the very top level in terms of how they were being sought after in Division I soccer. So chemistry means a lot. It's hard. There's no magic formula for it. It's hard to capture, but when you do, you better take advantage of it. But a lot of that has to happen in the locker room with the group of guys that are in there, being good teammates to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Graham. Like, it starts on the field for me because the reason why you're there mainly, well, for most people, was, in my case, I can't speak for everybody, was for the soccer. I wanted to play at the highest level possible. I wanted to get better. We knew that there's a professional league since '94 in the MLS, that if you did well, maybe that's a possibility that you could keep your dream going of that. But holding people accountable and holding yourself accountable. You can't. The only way you're going to get people's respect is what you're able to do on the field and not cut corners. It's doing the fitness stuff like you talked about, helping people finish runs. It's everybody wanting the most out of each other because you wanted to win. You wanted to be successful, because if we are successful, then it will also help you individually to try to accomplish your goals. So, I mean, that's kind of where it starts, and then it feeds into other areas when you see, okay, maybe you have a guy that's getting close to maybe being on academic probation, like, hey, we got to get you, we need you for the team. I care about your well-being and what you do after soccer, but at the same time, the main objective I felt like was, what are we going to do together on the field? And then you care about them and what they're doing afterwards, but you wanted to make your time there successful and try to do something special.
Well, it's pretty much, when you're playing, you do your job and half of the player next year, right? And keep that alive. So, I mean, obviously moving on, going through and graduating, you yourself, Clint, went on for a fabulous career, and now we're obviously getting around in the media eye as well. Do you have any much time left over to watch any college soccer at the moment? How do you think, you've been involved in the professional game and played all around the world, represented the country. Do you spend much time watching it now? Where do you think it is? Has it improved? A lot of good players, I think, generally across the US as well. I think the level of play is getting higher and higher. Obviously with the MLS, there's not that many professional clubs around, so there's a lot of good players that are still in the college system. Your thoughts on the current college game?
For me, honestly, it's tough to watch some of the professional games because I have so many kids, and I have 6 kids. My time is stretched, so unfortunately I don't get a lot of time to watch the college game. But you talk about captains in terms of Graham and what he does as an alumni, and getting everybody together to get back and hang out and talk about those times and to play with the current squad and kind of get an idea of the type of players that they have now and what that level's like. So for me, that's really as much as I get, if I'm being honest to you. But I mean, it definitely has changed from when I was playing. I think it's more difficult now because of the college portal. I think it's, like you talked about, you're not able to have these. I mean, I don't really know as well as Doug to talk about it, but it just seems like in terms of how many available scholarships you have for freshmen, you don't always kind of know depending on who you pick up in the portal and what kind of scholarships you have. I mean, for me growing up, it was like you had these freshman class, sophomore class, and there was a certain amount that were going to come in every year, per se. I don't know what that number would be, but with the way things have changed now, and then you got a lot of European players, which were before, but more so, I think now, especially when you have players that are in England and in different countries that maybe don't go from that academy to that first team or don't go professional. That is an opportunity for them to come back, so and come to the States, get a college scholarship, and kind of further their development. I know Steve Zakawani, who I played with the Seattle Sounders. He's someone who took that path, won a championship with Akron, and then was able to make that leap to the professional level and play with Seattle.
Which brings me on to the transfer portal, Doug. Obviously, as a college coach and with vast experience and seeing so many different changes, throughout the college system. The portal now, I do believe players can go onto the portal without maybe telling the head coach. They have to see the admissions or the counsellors, and they can put their name on there. I'm speaking to college coaches in the industry we're in here with youth soccer and trying to help players, and there's can be 2,000 or 3,000 players on this portal that are changing and want to transfer, one probably for playing time, want something better, not happy. I hate to be controversial, but is it a good thing? Is it an okay thing? Is it managed well? Should it be managed differently?
Steve,
and is it hurting maybe freshmen that we're dealing with here? Yeah. We're seeing a hold up where 2 years ago we would have all of our 18s committed by maybe February of their senior year at the latest.
Yeah.
We have players now in our seniors that are not committed because maybe colleges are taking a 23-year-old freshman or a transfer from somewhere else that hasn't played, that can come in and maybe do the job that they need. It's pretty intense out there at the moment.
It's
right?
the Wild West. That's what I described it out there. It
Yeah.
is. It's the other thing is this is the last year of COVID, so the kids in every sport, not just soccer, have an extra year of eligibility, and so this is why we're graduating 13 guys this year. One of the things I'm completely proud of at Furman is our kids don't leave. They stay. They want to come back. They want to join in like these guys do. But going back to the portal, I don't like it. It's something there's different timing for it. The rules have changed again even this year. If you're going to grad school or you're non-scholarship, you can go on the portal anytime you want. If you're a scholarship kid, there's 2 windows, like the transfer windows in Europe. There's 2 transfer windows of you can't go till, I think it was August whatever, till a certain date, and then the recent one was just last Monday was you can't go on that, and if you go on there before and you don't say anything, you lose a year of eligibility. And a lot of kids don't know that, and because they've all changed this year, and it's consistently changing, and so we don't really know what's going on with it. But you can tell if a kid's on scholarship or not.
Yeah.
You can tell if a kid wants to go to grad school because they may have played 4 years now and graduated, and then may want to try a different school for 1 more year, just to see what it's like and do a master's degree. So that's a legit thing. I think that does help kids.
Yeah.
That way, I think the portal's good. The other way is, to me, the kids are getting a little bit too much power now, and they're not staying at schools to learn the system, learn the school, learn their teammates, and bide their time to earn a spot on the team. Now, these 2 guys, it's a bit different. They came in and they both played very quickly, as I'm glad they did. But there's a lot of kids now that will come in and say, if I'm not playing, this grass has got to be greener over there and there and there, and they're forfeiting an education, and they're also forfeiting a culture that is being developed within a team and a program, and they're forfeiting their teammates.
This is where we say about verbally committed, which is what we're trying to talk about here. That must have some meaning. We all go through good days, bad days, some adversity. See it out. See it out. Or just move somewhere else because you don't like what's happening, and being committed to something, like you said, with your teammates and those kind of things. Is it too easy just to walk away? And how do we keep these kids and players, fully engaged? Again, going back to your point and your point, Clint, good parenting, I think can help with, from adversity, gain strength, always look in the, never look in the rearview mirror, always look forward, perseverance, dedicated. That's what good teams have, don't they? All good teams, whether it be in the business world, soccer, rugby, any sport you have, they persevere, they go through the trenches, they dig deep, they suffer to come out the other end. And are we in this day and age now, we're not suffering enough, and when we do, we look somewhere else.
I think there's a balance. I think there's giving something a good college try, they say, in terms of getting your head down, working hard as you can, and seeing how things play out. Give it a year or 2, and if it's not working out, then you need to do what's best for you. You know what I mean? I can't say for everybody what their path needs to be, but if you're not giving it a chance and you're not putting forth the effort and you're not trying to learn the system, because maybe at the end of the day you don't fit the system, or maybe you're not that type of player that the coach thought you were going to be. Maybe the coach is not who you thought it was going to be. The thing that you have for you in college sports versus professional sports is you're able to sub more often. You can go off and then you can still come back on. So you're able to get more minutes in that way. Whereas in the professional level, if you're off, you're off, and if you get on, you got to make the most of it, because you might not know when the next time you get subbed on in the future. So you got to make the most of your chances. So with anything in life, I think there's a balance. You don't want it to be all the power one way or the other. I think that there always needs to be a room for a little adjustment, because not every relationship works out. Right. But at the same time,
but I think what you're saying
going to
is a fair chance.
Yeah, you got to go through it. You're gonna have your ups and your downs, and that's what's going to make you who you are in the end. So you just got to find that balance.
I agree with that to a certain extent, Clint. Because the coach may change.
Exactly.
The school may change. There's a lot of different things, variables in there, and kids may suffer. They may suffer a family situation back home that they don't know about is going to happen, and then all of a sudden they have to go back, and something may happen with their parents or a brother or sister. That there's a lot of things that can happen to them.
And also maybe injuries. We know the college season is quite
injured. Remember, you were hurt that senior year.
Yeah,
so
he was hurt his senior year. Was one thing.
Yeah. I mean, I went on my recruiting visit. I was just coming off of a knee injury when I had I had to get a lateral release done. Basically, I had a knee injury that my knee went out and came back, and there was a bone that was chipped on my kneecap. But that meant a lot to me that Furman still honored the scholarship, still wanted me to come in, and I was able to rehab my senior year. I was only out for 2 to 3 months, but it's something that meant a lot to me, and I wanted to try to pay the school back when I got the opportunity to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys have covered it well. The other side of that coin, which is probably worth discussion as well, whether it's today or at a different time, is just making sure that our kids, kids, when you go to college, you're still a kid. We talk about these guys as if, an 18 to 22-year-old is someone who's mature. I know I wasn't. But I think if you're committed to something, you got to give it a legit shot. Like the idea that I think today's society is so quick, and maybe it's socially media fed, it's all of these things, but there's so many quick fixes. There's no quick fix to growth, right? Yeah. You got to sit in that uncomfortable spot, and growth only happens when you stop making excuses. That's the way the real world works. And so there's an element to all of this that I think for the right kid, yes, you need to go find the right thing for you. For the kid that just is going to ping pong around because, that uncomfortable spot is too uncomfortable, we've got to find a way to give these kids greater resiliency as they're coming through the academy system, so that they can dig in, so that they can figure out how to sharpen that steel with their character and their integrity and stick through hard times. Because soccer, for a lot of these kids, is going to be a microcosm of the ups and downs and the challenges they're going to face in life, with relationships, with work, with family and sickness and all types of things. And you do have to build that you can't buy that off the shelf, and you can't just kind of pick it up from a friend. You got to build it. And there's maybe no better place to do it than maybe it's the military, maybe it's sport. There's certain environments for men that allow you to get in those really difficult spots and figure out who you are, and how to become a better person. So there's a lot to be said there, and it's a big topic to tackle.
Which leads me to the red shirt, the red shirt environment. I think many years ago, some people, I'm red shirt. It was almost an embarrassment or something like this. But I think actually now it can be a very valuable tool for young players coming into the system that maybe need to learn the ropes, need to get adapted to the school, train with the team, but maybe are not quite ready.
Had an injury.
Injury. If you're going to play just 8 minutes here, 8 minutes there, 8 minutes there,
waste a year,
and burn a whole year of eligibility. Yeah. Because people are staying in school longer, they're doing, afterwards, postgraduate degrees, or staying in, you can get an extra year out of it. It can be quite beneficial, yeah?
I think so, but as Clint said, an injury, there's medical red shirts and there's regular red shirts, and now there's a COVID red shirt, so it's all different things. But I agree. again, an injury is a tough one to take, but even that, the redshirt rules changed since these guys have been in college. When they were in college, you had to sit out the whole year. Now you just sit out the fall season. You can play in preseason even.
Yeah.
And you can
Spring season?
In the spring you can play.
Okay.
So
And you can play in exhibition games.
Exhibition
at the beginning
games.
of the year, but once the conference starts, or regular season
up to
starts.
3 exhibition games, but once regular season starts, you can't play in those games. Now, if you're injured, it has to be in the first 50% of the games. There's all different rules, Steve. But now the fact that you can play in the spring, it actually helps as well. And I think it's a good thing for some kids to come in and not waste a year. And then you, on the back end of it, you get a fifth-year kid, or they'll graduate at Christmas, and they're older, and they're in your system. And the other thing, if they do want to transfer, they have another year at a different place too. So I think it behooves the guys to do it that way. I think we've redshirted many guys, but some guys are ready and developed and ready for college soccer. There's no question. But as Clint even said before, the substitution rule is different. And there's so many different things in college that people don't understand. The age group different. They're playing with older guys, but the first half substitution rule is different than the second half substitution rule.
Right. You can't go back in the first half, but you can re-enter once in the second.
It's so different. It's really hard to keep account. As I get older, trying to keep account, I have 31 guys. Yeah. And so who's been in and out? Who's been in and out? And Bully can't do it.
You can't leave that with Bully.
I've got like an abacus on the side. I've been doing it for so long.
Pick a card.
So it's really, that's hard to remember who's been in and out. And if you start in the second half, you can come out, go back in and come out again. And in 45 minutes, that's a lot of stuff going on.
You should be able to, I feel like you should be able to do it in both halves. If you can do it in one half, why can't you do it in the other? That doesn't
keep
make
it
any
consistent.
sense.
At least
and it makes it easier for the coach in real time dealing with the stresses of the game.
Yes.
To tinker a little bit, but also gives kids more opportunity to play.
Participate. Yep.
Right. Well, some players could go in the second half, going for 8 minutes, come out, and then another player will go in for 8 minutes, come out. That gives 16 minutes for the original player to have a breather. And these two players who played 8 minutes.
Who's playing most of the game, and he's got Graham on him, who's kicking him, and he's got a yellow card now. He goes off. I bring another guy in like Slobodian. He's going to kick him for a little bit, get a yellow card. Graham will come back in again. So now you may be playing against 3 guys. In the pros, you're wearing someone down, and it's different. And your mind as well is on a different guy. If I got him in my pocket, I may just change wings, or I could do different things. Here, I could put 3 or 4 different guys on Clint, and they may not be that good as that, but they're going to be physically demanding on him, and all of a sudden he's got to withstand all of them. And so there's a different strategy again.
Yeah. Now the other thing, we go into college now. Players can, with the MLS, can come out maybe after 2 years or a year, get drafted. Clint, you done all 4 years, then got drafted.
I did 3.
3. Okay. What are your thoughts on that? 2 years, half a degree, go. Some players make it. Some players.
I think everybody's situation is different, right? For me, what helped my situation was being able to play at Furman and to do well got me to get called into the U20 national team. They had the World Cup. In that third season, normally it would be in your sophomore year when that tournament would be because of 9/11. I think it got moved back or something like that. And then, I was able to go Project 40, which Nike was doing at the time, which meant that if it didn't work out for me, they would pay for me to go back to school, and I had a 10 years time to kind of do that, and I didn't count towards the salary cap of the team that I went to.
Right.
So for me, it made sense to go then because I felt like, here's a situation, I don't know if I'm going to have a better spot to be in going into the draft. I don't count towards the salary cap, and here's my chance to accomplish my dream. For me, it made sense. I talked with Doug about it. Obviously, it's a tough one to make because you're building something and you want people to be there as long as they can. But at the end of the day, you just.
But you had
as long as you're open.
Yeah, it was a few, but it was the right time for Clint. There's no question.
Because Rico had left the year before.
He left the year before, and he
was a sophomore.
Second in the draft, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I only will let them go if the coaches will give them a chance to train and play.
Yeah.
And Stevie Nicol and Paul Marin at the time, God rest his soul.
Yep.
They were brilliant because I know the Texas team, Dallas passed
twice, and I used to train down there in the off season. In the summertime, I would train. Just go up there, drive 3 hours up there.
Now was that Dallas Burn at the time?
It was Dallas Burn.
Yeah.
I used to drive up there during the summer just to train, get minutes, to kind of see what that level was like. Thought being a Texas boy, there might be some love there in the draft, and they passed up on me twice.
I was
So I go to the snow, but it ended up being the best. It ended up being the best thing because Stevie Nickel and Paul Mariner, may his soul rest in peace. They gave me a chance. They gave me an opportunity. They were a team that didn't have a huge salary cap, and they gave their rookies an opportunity if they were good enough to play. So that was a blessing in disguise, and I couldn't have asked for a better situation in terms of the college coach I had and my first professional coach.
Well, I think that's a testament to you as well, Doug. That you've got 9 or 10 players who've gone in the MLS draft and become professionals from the program. And I remember when I was in Georgia, and the young boys would say, "Well, I want to go in the MLS. Where can I go?" And you had 3 or 4 of our guys that came up that had aspirations to play professionally, and I think and the reason they went because they knew if they were good enough, that you would support them. And that's about being that caring kind of guy that has the best for your student athletes and for the players that can move on out of your program, and that's where you garnish the respect that I know you have within the college ranks from many Division I colleges and from youth soccer guys like me, and obviously your former players here that have both done tremendously well. So it's a network, isn't it? And it's a bond, and this is what's beauty about this sport, that you meet so many people that they're friendships for years and lifetimes. And I think this is something we want to bring across with this podcast as well, that you can make best friends from this, you can get great networking jobs, you can go to great schools, and you can have a really, really good time doing something you love, but you've got to be dedicated, you've got to be committed, and you've got to follow through on things, Clint, 475 professional appearances, 155 goals, it says here, 62 college appearances, 17 goals. Best college goal?
Oh.
Someone would say we'll start with the pro.
Well, I shouldn't have played him as a right back.
Yeah.
It was probably easier for me.
Oh man, best college goal.
Maybe I've been asked
the
that for a while.
The most important goal I would say was the goal against Stanford in the quarterfinal. Just the importance of that game, what we went through that year, with Greg Griffin passing away in a car accident, having another player not be able to play because of injuries, and it was a lot that we went through that season. So that was an important goal for me. Because it gave us a little bit of a hope that trying to get through that game and get to the semifinals. But I mean, you probably remember more goals and stuff than me.
Now that I do remember, because that was a tough year, and we were on an 11 goal unbeaten. Well, no goals conceded streak. It's still an NCAA record, and we did it with that 4 very good players. I mean, Gray was captain of the national team that time. Of the under-20s, wasn't he?
Shafiq was a national team player as well.
Was an awesome player. Josh
was as well.
Yeah.
And I almost was in the car with him.
That's right.
But I didn't have $20. By being broke, kept me from going to the concert. They went to a Cash Money concert, and it was just a situation. Just driving back, got tired, and unfortunate event that happened. But
I do remember that tough time.
Yeah.
But,
But again, that's when you rally and you have teammates and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's it's the toughest time I've ever had. But I was lucky to have these guys and support of assistant coaches and guys that were just amazing, who were teammates of his.
Yeah.
And that was a tough time. I mean, it's never easy. And, Shafiq was a terrific player. He was a terrific player.
Yeah, he had it all: speed, strength,
left-footed.
Left-footed, could glide past people.
Yeah, and then it was. I mean, the Gray was definitely in our goal at some point in some of those games. I don't know how. In the VCU game, remember the ball hit the bar twice.
Yeah.
On one shot and stuff, and then we cleared it off the line, and we had
one penalty
kicks. That's right.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
Yeah, in the snow.
VCU,
Yeah. So we were we didn't concede a goal through all the conference tournament, all the NCAA games, and that Stanford game, Chad Marshall was the first goal we conceded.
Yeah.
And we would have won, and we'd have gone back and played in the semi-final.
Yeah.
So it was. It's been some great years.
Yeah.
Great years.
But the thing that stands out to me the most, I would say, and I don't know, I'd like to hear what stood out for you the most was the stadium, the soccer stadium that we had at Furman, how nice the pitch was, and the first time getting to play under the lights there as a freshman. That was a big moment. You felt like you made it somewhere special.
Yeah. Graham, I'm going to say central defender, right? Most fun player you enjoyed kicking, or the hardest number 9 you come across that you had to play against.
It's like, okay, everybody get it.
And do you still stay in touch with them?
Yeah. So a lot of good guys. I mean, I was really fortunate to come up in an era with some great players. But the only game I didn't start in my career was my very first one. And then I did have a concussion leading into my senior year that caused me to sit out the UAB tournament. But legitimately, I came in and thought I would play probably my junior and senior year. I really just didn't have that expectation. I wanted to fight for it. But we played UNCC the very first game, and we got a red card within first 10 minutes, and we played a man down. And Doug put me, I think, at right wing. I played a lot of time at right wing. I was like, okay, this is new.
I really knew my players well.
Yeah. He was just like, he's like, I haven't done this before. Get out there and just run for a bit. And then we went down to South Carolina the second game, and 2 guys I grew up playing with, Mathis and Wolf, who played on the U.S. men's national
I
team.
just recruited from South Carolina.
Yeah.
Right. I just had gone from there.
Well, they were starting up top for South Carolina. Yeah, from
Rockdale.
Well, Stone Mountain from Rockdale.
Right,
Wolf was from Stone Mountain with me, and then Clint was just right around the corner in Rockdale. But we all grew up playing together, like constantly, like side games for the same club teams. And the guy who started in front of me in the first game his stomach got sick right before the game, and Doug said, "I need you to start and mark these guys out of the game." And I said, "Oh, hell yeah." And so I went up directly against Mathis, who was essentially the Herman Trophy, I think, award winner that year. Shut him out in the game. We won the Umbro Cup down there at South Carolina, and then I know he
had to talk some shit.
Oh, he said.
Now listen, this wasn't a loaded question. This is honestly.
Well, I love playing against him.
Let it go, Graham. Let it go. So
It's all good. We had a few more.
Still he holds that grudge.
No. We won that game.
Hey, we've got another 3 hours if you want to go going.
Let's get the beers out.
We've got him right now.
But probably the guy I really loved playing against was Alejandro Moreno, who's still commentating for ESPN. I think he's ESPN, but he was on UNCG, and we had some epic battles. He's a great player, had a great career far after that, but he and I would go after it. And in every match, no matter how many elbows were thrown, with a hug and full respect for each other, because we just put it out there, and best man won on whichever day.
Again, commitment.
Yeah.
Commitment.
He was a terrific player too, Moreno, and I still remember you got injured, and I was trying to take him off. And he's like, he wouldn't come off because he wanted to hit him one more time. Remember that?
I think my shoulder went out, and I got to pop back in on the sideline. I wasn't coming out.
Back in. That's how we
were at the championship game in Charleston Battery. Well, I wasn't going to lose a minute. That was my senior year, and I was gonna soak it all up. So
good stuff. Well, hey, also, the stadium down there, big drive for the $1 million kind of fundraiser. I know, Graham, you were heavily involved in that. I think that shows, great commitment, giving back to the program. I think this is what college soccer does with alumni and stuff like that. That you get that bond, and it's a union of men, women, wherever you play across the country. Just tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's an amazing achievement.
Well, as Clint said, I mean, it was the greatest field I ever played on, greatest stadium I ever played in when I got there. Again, we both come from different states, but very humble backgrounds. And I think Doug gave us a lot. The teams we played on gave us a lot. And I told Doug this morning, I've always felt that whatever I took from the game, I wanted to give back more than I got from it. And I got a lot of my life from the game, so it just felt like the right thing to do. And it was great timing. We really we had dreams of having a field house which is what the fundraiser was for, to build our own field house.
You
with
like walking
locker
through the
rooms.
parking lot, through the trees by the baseball field.
You never knew who might be in those trees. It's a
That's
long way to get there.
You talk about the starting lineup. I had to see who survived the roads. I was like, all right, he didn't make it, so you're in. You're in.
Bully and I built that kind of junky locker room too.
Remember that? Remember the lockers?
Yeah, man.
But yeah, given the national setting, we had kind of that Doug had taken a really good kind of program that had sort of that boutique capability to compete with the ACC and took it to a different level. And I just felt like the program and the guys that were going to come after me deserved that experience to continue taking a step forward. And so it wasn't just me. It was what really happened is we started talking about it for 3 or 4 years, and we dreamed about it and we had plans. And there was just one of my close friends who played with me was the head of fundraising. He's like, I still don't have $1, but every single one of you had told me you're in. Once you get up to here, just give me a call. Yeah. And I'm like, well, the hell, at some point we got to put this thing on the map. And so I just decided, Gerald and I got together and we decided it was our time to be that keystone alumni leader and ask the guys to come with me. But I got to say, a phone call to any of these guys, and it didn't take a debate, it didn't take a sales pitch, and it was immediate, yeah, what do you need?
Good.
That's what we've built, and it is pretty unique.
Both of them have been fantastic. Both married Furman girls as well, so we don't keep everything in the family. But I would say that my proudest thing is that these guys come back. They play in the alumni game. I think you've only missed one.
Yeah.
One. But
it might start to increase, at least with the play. But it's starting to hurt worse.
You think of that, and 29 years of alumni. Mm-hmm. And when Graham called and said he was doing that with the field, that was like, wow. This field house is coming. Clint made a video. We went down to for the Scotland game. Remember that?
Yeah, I was in Jacksonville.
We had a little camera. All these massive cameras. We had a little camera. Clint was talking about. I don't really want. I remember walking across those roads to the field and all that stuff. We need a field house, a locker room where we don't have to risk our lives to play. That kind of thing. And it was just great. I think that was the way we did things. Mm-hmm. Anyway, and I think a lot of people jumped on, but as a consummate leader, Graham always was that guy that. He'd make the call before I even called him. I've never asked anyone for any money. And I'm so proud of it that I don't have to, because these guys want to come back, want to give back. And they're proud of where they played. They bring their wives and kids back and show them where they played. And they're proud of what they've done. And honestly, it's Graham, again, has been that guy to say to the alumni, hey, come on, we need to kick in here. Let's not just do half measures here.
Right.
Let's go back and do this right, because I want the next group. And he was that way as a player too.
Well, it sounds very much no half measures, 100%.
No,
full
and
yeah.
Again, the team that we had at that time, into his junior year, we finally made the NCAA's or senior year. It was going, year. And as we're doing it, now it was kind of a legit team that guys like Clint could say, and you hadn't made the national team then, but guys had. Ricardo and some of the guys, and you made the under-20s. And
Goldsmith.
Matt Goldsmith and John Bradford and different guys.
John Barry was
John Barry Newsom.
John is obviously a colleague of mine at NCFC here, doing a great job up there.
You look at Von Bethel and his national team, and there's a lot of different things, but because we became a legit team, I could recruit guys like Clint to say, come and join guys like Graham to what they've built here, and now come and take it to that next step as well. He's done the same thing off the field too, and I owe so much to both the guys, but particularly a Graham that's done this without me asking.
Well, I'll be controversial now, and I'm going to ask Clint. Captain, you played for a lot of captains, maybe been a captain. Where does this young man rank you? Your college captain.
Well, we didn't get to overlap.
We didn't get to overlap, but from what I've seen, in terms of reconnecting again with our kids at Furman camp, and how he galvanizes everybody to get together to, for alumni weekend or this an England trip that went on, and being able to help with some of the kids, give them an opportunity that are the current players to make that trip over there and stuff like that. So he's always going above and beyond, and we always kind of joke about like figuring out ways we need to do like a golf tournament to help raise money. That way we can have a little bit more fun while we, doing good calls. But it's I mean, if he was anything like what he is after his playing career, then he had to be up there with some of the best.
Cool. Well, hey, listen, guys, I really appreciate you coming in to kind of get this thing up and running and kick-started. I couldn't think of three greater guests, but I'm going to ask you to summarize at the end. I want you to give me 3 words what Furman University means to you, because he's got 29 years there and he's the chief who's been put in the custodial hands for the last 29, 30 years. Doug.
I'd say culture is my biggest thing, and I'm so proud of the culture that these guys have created. And again, saying Clint was going to come on the England trip if he could have made it because he had a Champions League week that week, but he said, well, I can't make it, but can I help some kids? And they both did. They all put their hands in their pocket and they said, there's some kids on that team that can't afford to go. Mm-hmm. They will go on that trip, and that's what this means to me. That culture is the thing I'm proudest of.
Yeah, family. That's my home. It's all of our home. It's my kids' home. So I'm just really proud of it. I better stop before I get you.
We are emotional guys.
Yeah.
We are criers, by the way, Steve.
I used to be tough.
I would say opportunity. That's what I dreamed about. I didn't have a lot of money that I really couldn't have afforded to go to college, and for Furman, for Doug to give me that opportunity to go to a school like that and continue chasing my dream, something that means a lot to me and something I'll always appreciate.
Cool. Guys, Doug, Allison.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
really
much.
appreciate you.
Clint Dempsey.
Yes, sir.